Amen.
Okay, so my plan for as we go through Exodus 27, we'll just go through section by section, right? We'll read a complete section, and we'll kind of ask if there's any notes on a certain thing, and I have more towards whenever we finish 27, and so I would like for us to have full context. So. So yeah, let's go ahead and start on 27. Somebody read this first section, the altar of the burnt offering, verses 1 through 8.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Build an altar of acacia wood, 3 cubits high. It is to be square, 5 cubits long, and 5 cubits wide. Make a horn at each of the 4 corners, so that the horns and the altars are of one piece, and overlay the altar with bronze. Make all its utensils bronze. Its pots to remove the ashes, and its shovels, sprinkling bowls, meat forks, and fire pans. Make a grating for it, a bronze network, and make a bronze ring at each of the 4 corners of the network. Put it under the ledge of the altar so that it is halfway up the altar. Make poles of acacia wood for the altar and overlay them with bronze. The poles are to be inserted into the rings so they will be on 2 sides of the altar when it is carried. Make the altar hollow out of boards. It is to be made just as you were shown on the mountain.
Okay. Did anyone have any notes or anything they wanted to bring up towards this section?
Yeah. Once there's interesting word on verse 3 is like all its utensils of bronze, its pots to remove make all of its utensils of bronze, its pots to remove the ashes, and its several sprinkling bowls, meat forks, and fire pans. I guess it's really descriptive on like the utensils or so, and the reasons of that, like meat forks and sprinkling bowls. Like, what's just wondering about the extra description for it.
I imagine just for aesthetic, I think anything that's associated with this, this altar, right? Because let's just be honest, I'm kind of picturing this as like a setup to like almost like a holy barbecue, if you think about it. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say barbecue, but yeah.
I'm just making it plain for everybody. And so all the utensils, all of the things that come with this altar, this barbecue, and it's not really like a grill or whatever. They're not like flipping chickens and rotisseries and stuff like that. They're not doing that. It's most likely a pit, right? And all of the things that are associated with that pit, it has to fit the same aesthetic. And so you wouldn't get an emerald cooking set that has red pans, blue pans, green pans, orange pans, things like that. They're all within the same color. They all go together because they're all used for the same purpose, right? And so no matter what, it's like we can kind of almost compare this to how, like, say a church is formulated, to where if everything was bronze, if everybody had the same mission, the church operated under the same goal, then you should get the same result, right? You should get, each and everyone should be on one accord, and God should be glorified in the mission of the church when we're all set towards doing that. And so if we're in Bible study, Cam's studying the Quran, Germ is coming in studying the British version of whatever, Sean comes in with some tablets that are written from like Zeus or something like that, and I come in with the Holy Bible, we're going to be on different pages, studying different things. We're not going to have that same goal in mind. We're not going to get the same result. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, all of these things are and I'm kind of stretching this point, but the description of everything that was associated with this altar, it was used for this same goal. You know what I mean? And we'll get more into that a little later. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, the
whole aesthetic that everything is the same. All right. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah. So for this, you kind of already touched upon it when you were giving just overall examples before we started. But my main point of interest was the usage of the type of metal they used to cover the tools in this well, we're not in the courtyard, but yeah, we're at the altar. Everything here is being overlaid with bronze, or I think in Sean, probably in the version you're reading, does it mention it's brass instead of bronze?
Yep.
Yeah. So when I initially read through it, I'm like, okay, now we're shifting from using all gold to just using bronze or brass when we're out here. So I had looked into that some, and a couple points of interest that I noted on it was that the bronze or the brass was used, like, it has to do with judgment. And so whenever someone comes into the tabernacle, this courtyard or the area where the burnt offering altar is, that's going to be the first place that everyone passes by before they even get anywhere close to the holy place and the Holy of Holies. So it was like a person has to go through has to come to God through the place of repentance first. So essentially, like symbolizing that you need to you really need to repent for everything that you've done or realize that you have done before you can come close to having a true relationship with God. Realizing that you sinned, realizing that you need His His grace to be saved. And I believe I also had a question about the horns that I actually found out as well while I was looking up the brass. And essentially, from what I've read, is that the priest would come to these horns and grab two of them, essentially praying for forgiveness or begging for forgiveness while they have grab hold of these horns. So it just adds on to that symbolism of, hey, you need to repent before you even think about getting close to this, to the holy place. So that's what I had for that section. And I believe there was one other segment that I found that kind of noted the difference between bronze and gold, besides the type of metal, is just like the qualities of it, like the luster of it, as well as how durable they are. So with these items being out in the courtyard, you wouldn't want these to be overlaid with just pure gold, because they're going to be extremely vulnerable to the elements. So over time, rain, dust storms, and other factors, eventually you're just going to get a lot of like dirty gold after a while, and it becomes very, very hard to clean after being exposed to elements like that. So what I noticed is that it mentioned that that each of the gold and the bronze kind of represent the shine of heaven and earthly things respectively. So with the holy place and the Holy of Holies, everything within there is all covered with gold, which is usually attached to the notion of something being heavenly, having a great radiance to it, a great shine, and those items you would definitely want to protect from all the elements, including man, because even with the holy place and the Holy of Holies, it's very restrictive as far as who can actually go in there. With, I believe, only the high priest being able to go into the Holy of Holies, and that's just one person once a year, I believe. So as you get further in, it becomes more restrictive of who has access to these items. Whereas out in the courtyard, it's pretty much open season for the most part, and bronze just kind of represents the shine of humanity or earthly things. It's also very close to the color of what we would normally associate with clay, dirt, stuff like that. So that's what I picked up from this section.
Man, that is excellent. I'm glad I actually have this recorded. That was good. Anyone else?
Have you went yet, Miles?
He just about took mine.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm glad.
Well, that was good. I want to add what you said, Cam. Like, I'm keeping it brief now. Like, I learned my lesson. So, with this picture, guys, y'all remember I showed this last week. And so this is the entrance into the tabernacle, right? So, like all y'all are saying, all of this, everything outside of everything that's outside of the Holy of Holies is bronze. So we're going to read that the gates was bronze. Even the utensils that they use are bronze. The bronze laver, the bronze altar, everything's bronze, right? So like the whole point of this is like, how close do you want to be to God? Because the closer you get to him, the more you got to deny yourself, the more you got to humble yourself, the more you got to forget about yourself, and the more you got to focus on him. Like this tabernacle is just talking about him and him alone. Like everybody claims they want to be close to God, but you're not willing to submit to what he wants and submit to his ways and to deny everything that you want, because life's not about you. You don't live anymore. Like to be a child of God and to want to experience him for who he really is, like this is the way heaven's gonna be, man. Like again, the tabernacle it symbolizes heaven. So like in order for us to even get to that point, we gotta be fully just centered and focused in on what does God want and pleasing him and serving him. Otherwise we'll never get that close to him. So and the first thing you see when you enter into the gate is the altar. That's the first thing you see and walk into. And it's letting you know, like, you need to make a sacrifice if you think you're gonna, if you think you're just gonna walk up in here and get in the Holy of Holies to meet God. Like, you're not even gonna get there if you can't even make a sacrifice. Matter of fact, only certain people can even go in there, right? So, yeah, man, like this was powerful, man. And then, like with the four horns, y'all probably wondering what that means. Did y'all see in that verse it said that the four horns are supposed to stretch to the four corners? Like it put emphasis to that. So like that just means like in all directions, anywhere you look at it, God, like he wants salvation for everybody, like from the ends of the world, like east, west, north, south. God is stretching out and he wants everybody to be saved. He gives grace to everybody. If you just come to the altar and repent. And then something else too, I mentioned it last week, but I didn't know what I was really saying. But like, no, actually it was a few studies back. Y'all remember I said something like, whenever somebody committed murder, they could run to the altar and be protected. Yeah. So like, yeah, like the thing is like if they committed murder or something like that, if they were guilty or not guilty, all they had to do is put their hands on one of the four corners of the two of the four corners of the altar and plead their case to God, and nobody could do anything with them. And that's how it's the same for us. Like, when we're guilty of sin, when we come to God's altar, no matter what you did, if you're guilty, you're innocent, like God's going to forgive you. All you got to do is just come to the altar and come to him. And that brings you closer to him, So yeah, that's what I got from that section. I'll keep it short.
It's all good, man. All right, good stuff. Let's go ahead and get into the courtyard. Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it. It says, "Make a courtyard for the tabernacle. The south side shall be 100 cubits long, and it is to have curtains of finely twisted linen, with 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, and with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The north side shall also be 100 cubits long, and is to have curtains with 20 posts and 20 bronze bases, and with silver hooks and bands on the posts. The western of the courtyard shall be 50 cubits wide and have curtains with 10 posts and 10 bases. On the east end, towards the sunrise, the courtyard shall also be 50 cubits wide. Curtains 15 cubits long are to be on one side of the entrance with 3 posts and 3 bases, and the curtains 15 cubits long are to be on the other side, and with 3 posts and 3 bases. On the entrance, for the entrance to the courtyard, provide a curtain 20 cubits long of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn in finely twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer, with 4 posts and 4 bases. All of the posts around the courtyard are to have silver bands and hooks and bronze bases. The courtyard shall be 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide, with curtains of finely twisted linen, 5 cubits high, and with bronze bases. All of the other articles used in the service of the tabernacle, whatever their function, including all of the tent pegs for it, and those for the courtyard are to be of bronze. Forgot how to read for a second. Any comments on this section?
This one I didn't have anything for that. I actually wanted to ask a question regarding the diagram you showed a little bit earlier, Sean, that showed the courtyard.
Mm-hmm.
It mentioned like something called a bronze laver right outside the curtain to the holy place. What's a laver?
I think it's Miles. Have you studied that too? Because like all I got was because we haven't read it about it yet or covered it, but like I think it's just where the priests cleansed their hands before they went into the tabernacle. You know, after they make a sacrifice, they wipe themselves down with the water. I think that's what it is. I think it's just water for cleansing.
Laver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no clue.
But yeah, it's for cleansing of sin. You know, just like with us, we have to be cleansed of our sins and stuff. So it's just a place of cleansing.
Is that kind of that thing to where more of like those who are Catholic, they would have like this, I guess this thing that has like holy water in it, and they like cleanse their hands like with it,
right?
Like the priest does, something like that.
Yeah, before they do anything,
right?
Purify themselves, and then afterwards too, I think. But I don't know much about it. I just know it's for cleansing.
Same.
Okay.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
I may miss it. I haven't had a recall. What exactly did they design or build this? Because it was like interesting when verse 13 it said like on the east end toward the sunrise, the courtyard shall also be 50 cubits wide. So, and I'm just thinking about that kind of time-wise, like when the sun kind of rises or so. When I'm aware and when they're making this. That was kind of stuck out to me. It was like, okay, so not only like from a geographical perspective, but kind of like a
like a time period.
Yeah, time period too.
I didn't look that up. Let me see.
I got you. I'm about to show you something real cool. I just gotta hide some photos because there's 2 photos you're not supposed to see.
Yeah, give me a moment while I look this up for you.
Yeah.
But basically, like to answer your question, Miles, like the way that they had the everything set up. I'm trying to share my screen, but just give me a minute. But the way they had everything set up, y'all remember I showed my screen last week, and I showed where the tribes were around the tabernacle.
Yeah.
So the way that it was organized, it made a cross. So just like, it predicted the future, saying like Jesus is the cross, right? And so the way everything was set up, first of all, like this, I told you the tabernacle. If I was to ask you, what does the tabernacle mean? Why did God make the tabernacle? What would be your answer to that question?
Don't do that yet.
Don't do it.
Don't do that yet. Don't answer that yet. Let's go to the end of it.
Well, yeah, just think about that question, because like the way that answers your question, Miles. Like, why was the tabernacle that size? Because first of all, like the tabernacle symbolized Jesus too. Like, wait, Miles, you just don't want me to go there at all? Like,
just don't ask that question yet. If you want to wait until the end of the chapter, you can. Just save me some points, man. I ain't get much, but I at least got that one, man. Don't take this from me.
I'm gonna wait till you cover it then, because like the way I was about to go in, like, and I think it's gonna probably take everything.
If I'm gonna have to do a little bit more looking on this. Yeah, just so we can keep going.
Yeah.
As far as like when time period was, not really sure, but are you saying relative to when? Are you asking when did they do this relative to when God gave the instructions on Mount Sinai?
Yeah, because I think with stuff like if you have instructions some to sunrise, would it be like just do these things when like okay, here comes sunrise, let's get way to, or they just remember this is where the sunrise ends up? Because correct me if I'm wrong, sunrise can change in different types of day or so, or like yeah, it's not all in one location. That's something I could just look up like after. I think it's
Yeah, I'm gonna give you homework. Won't you tell us? We'll do that for now, and we'll come back next study. I'm gonna ask you too. Anything else in this section, guys?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah, good.
One of the first Bible verses I memorized. This was when I was a kid. Y'all know how in church, for Easter especially, they have you memorize certain stuff. And come up and be a little cute little kid and say what you memorized. It could be anything, but most times deal with like Jesus or the cross or something. But I went to Bible camp one time. We got rewards if you memorize certain scripture verses. So one time they had us memorize Psalms 23. It's only 6 verses, and then Psalms 100. That's only 5. And like you probably heard it before. Psalms 100 is, make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands, serve the Lord with gladness. Mm-hmm. But this is the part: come before His presence with singing. And then verse 3 is, know ye that the Lord, He is God, is He that has made us, and not we ourselves. We are His people, and the sheep of His pasture. Enter into His gates with thanksgiving, and into His courts with praise. So like, this is the way the Israelites like saw the tabernacle. Like, tabernacle is a place where like the God wanted His people to worship Him and be close to Him, and just make it feel like He was there and His presence was there, because like that's what He made it for. Just like it would be heaven here on earth. And like, I didn't say it last week, but there's so many scripture verses like in the book of Revelation and stuff, and throughout the whole Bible, just talking about how like heaven will have a tabernacle. Like that tabernacle is God's throne, like where He abides and resides at. Only person who can go there is Jesus. We'll talk about that in the next chapter, how He's the great high priest. But like, yeah, with this chapter, man, enter into His gate with praise, man. So like, tabernacle looked just like this, right? So it's that outer court. But the way it was orchestrated, to answer your question, Avery, like it it was the center of everything, of all of Israel right here. So like whenever they moved, because they moved to different places, right? Right now they're at Mount Sinai, but they're going to be moving in different places, right? So the center of everything was the tabernacle. So the center of everything should be God. So this is symbolic to us. Like this is what God was trying to convey. Like the center of your life should be me. I should be like the center of everything and the reason why you do anything. So like everybody came here to worship and praise God. So like this is a place where everybody wanted to come and come be in God's presence because this is where he abided at, right? So that's just to break down your question a little bit. But then like you asked, why is it east? Why is it the east gate? Like I said this last week, but I was saying so much stuff you probably didn't understand what I was saying. But like the the pagan other tribes, Philistines, Canaanites, all of them, the Egyptians, they all worship their God from the west side where the sun rises, I guess, something like that. God wanted everything to be different. You know, God doesn't want to be associated with any other idol or anything. He's a very jealous God, right? Says that plenty of times in his Bible. You guys get it. So he put his tabernacle, the entrance being the east gate. Then also there was only one entrance. And I said last week that the entrance was just talking about, it was predicting of Jesus again. Like this is the line of Judah. Judah tribe is on the east. Then you got Aaron and Moses and the priests. Like, but the line of Judah, like it said that Jesus will come from the lines of Judah. So the east gate, there's only one way into heaven, and that's Jesus. Like you see how all the scriptures come together, like just through this. Like I haven't even broke down anything really, but yeah, that's to answer your question a little bit. Hey.
Okay. Yeah. So the all right. I understand.
Oh, I ain't even talk about the tabernacle, but yeah, that's it though. But like enter his gate with praise. That's all you need to know. Like that's the way they saw. Even David saw the tabernacle like that. Like this is a place where you worship and praise God. You know, this is a place where you come and acknowledge who he is and you repent of your sins and so you can get right with him. You know, it's all like to go well with you. Yeah, and all that stuff. But yeah, I'll keep it short. But we didn't talk about the silver. Like, did anybody? Y'all remember last week we talked about silver, and right here in this text, it mentioned like the silver things on the bronze pillars and stuff. Yeah, so like those.
Why are the hooks in the band silver?
All right, so silver, like it said that the bronze base will have a silver top, right, and then a silver hook from there's a silver hook that will help with the hanging white linen. So we talked about it last week. White signifies purity. I mean, everybody knows that, right? So yeah. The white hook signifies that Jesus is purity, and the silver signifies that Jesus is the way, because the silver was at the top. Because silver signifies, you know, redemption and the payment of sin, right? So it's just pointing again to Jesus. Like all this tabernacle is either pointing to Jesus, is either talking about our relationship with God and how we should be with him, or it's talking about the way heaven's going to be, you know, in God's presence and what it could be now, like in the fellowship, you know, Christian relationship with him. So, yeah.
Amen. Anyone else on this section? And what's up, Germ? Made it. All right. There's nothing else on this section. Let's go ahead and go through the oil for the lampstand. Who wants to read that for me?
I could do that for.
Yeah.
Command the Israelites to bring you clear oil of pressed olives for the light, so that the lamps may be kept burning. In the tent of meeting, outside the curtain that seals the ark of the covenant law, Aaron and the sons are to keep the lamps burning before the Lord from evening to morning. This is to be lasting ordinance among the Israelites for the generations to come.
Any notes on this section, guys?
So I would imagine that the lamps represents it just represents what it said in verse yeah, so like this would be lasting ordinance among the Israelites for the generations come. It just means for like a passing or like I would say what's it thing for like for generation like this represents like those for the future of selves for those in long lasting life, and as long as it keeps on burning, this will remain here and Marvel. That's my takeaway from it. Because it's like it's like you know how it's always I don't know this part of it, but like how the monoliths it's always had that fire burning forever, everlasting. This kind of reminds me of that. It's like that fire still burns forever and throughout the next generations. Like that will never be put out.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah. So for this section, I've looked up a bit as far as why they used olive oil for the lamplight. Because I know starting out, olives or the olive branch is a symbolism of peace that we've seen so far. But I was just really curious as to why they use that in particular for the flames. But then I found that that the oil itself is not only very clear, but when burned in the lamp, it creates like a smoke-free sort of light. So it's so it wouldn't be like you have something on fire within there, but you just see a whole bunch of black smoke just rising out of the tin, or choking whoever is inside. So I did find out on that, but then while I was looking at that, I also kind of came across the meaning of why they have the lamps in there lighted and why they keep them lighted. Because normally you would assume that someone would keep the lamp burning only while someone is in there, and then when it's time to go to bed, put it out, and then save some oil for the next day. But then I saw that the flames themselves kind of represent the Holy Spirit. And so for as long as that light was on within the tabernacle, it was like the Holy Spirit was always there. And if the light, or in this case the spirit, was gone, then that what's the word? I was gonna say, for lack of a better term, the church itself is just dead. If the Holy Spirit, isn't in there. And I think probably one of you all would know. I think it was in one of the Timothys when they were talking about a false church, or a church that was raised only for like personal gain or wealth and all that. Is just a church that doesn't have God in it, where they're just trying to preach things for their own to make themselves better, but not to help spread the word or give praise to God's name. So that's kind of what I picked up on this section.
Okay. My main question, and I guess this is more for Sean. Let me go back to the chapter, because I was about to. So this oil for the lampstand, is that alluding to that parable of the 10 virgins?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. There's a
I
lot.
don't remember it by heart, but
yeah,
I my brain immediately like went to it.
Yeah, like mine too. Like, so just to let you guys know, just in case you never heard that parable, it's one of my favorite ones. Jesus was just talking to people, and he told a parable about the 10 virgins. Long story short, there was a master. He came and he left, but he left 10 virgins with lamps with oil in it, and their fire burning in their lamps, obviously. So he said, I'll be back soon, but keep the oil burning, keep the fire going, and when I get back, we can have a feast and dine together forever. And 5 virgins kept their oil burning, did everything it took just to keep their light keep on shining and stuff like that, right? So they toiled after this daily, and it was always attentive to it. But then there was 5 other virgins that didn't do it at all. And the master came back, and there was a feast. and everybody heard it. Everybody got the news, and the 5 virgins that didn't keep their lights burned at all, they they asked the 5 virgins that did, that were responsible with their lamps to give, light up their lamps and give them fire, but their lights were almost out. So meaning their time was almost gone. And so, yeah, the 5 virgins that kept their lights going, they got to go into the feast, and the other 5 virgins didn't. And they tried to help them, but they couldn't do anything. That's just like with salvation. Salvation in this Christian life, it's all dependent on, well, not salvation, but you get what I'm saying. Like, your relationship with God is all dependent on you. And if you don't do the work that God called you to do, yeah, you're not gonna be able to enter his feast. So that's one story. But were you finna say anything else, Miles? Like with just the candlesticks?
Yeah, that's kind of where where my brain kind of clicked out at.
All right, yeah, because I was going. Mine went in many other places too. Because like I did a life group lesson on Psalms 23. It's one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. In Psalms 23, it says in verse 5. That's the one that says, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake." All right, but verse 5 talks about how he anoints my head with oil and my cup runneth over. Y'all remember that? So it's one of my favorites. Like, well, that verse also says he prepares a table in the presence of my enemies, and he anoints my head with oil when my cup runs over. So like, that's one. That's talking about oil. Like oil. Like y'all seen candlesticks before? Like, I wonder how a candlestick would do without any oil in it. Like, have y'all tried that before or experimented on it? Because I heard like back in ancient time periods, like they had oil just to keep like the candle wick like all oiled up so the fire lasts longer. Like that's one thing.
I think I did it as a kid, but it was me being a kid. I don't remember. I just remember something about candle.
Yeah, but they said
I've
like,
actually
go ahead.
Lit a candle before. So this is new to me.
You said what?
I said I've never lit a candle before, so this is new to me.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring some candles over there.
Man, your house gonna be so nice.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing about oil. Like the Bible talks about it all the time. Like oil I like what Cam said. Cam, everything you said was on the money. Like, oil just signifies God's grace, right? The grace of the Holy Spirit and gifts. So like, without God's oil, we don't have God's light. And we cannot, light up the world. Like his oil keeps us going. It gives us perseverance. It gives us everything we need to like keep on going. It's that extra push. Like in Zechariah, he had a vision about, I want to show you guys a picture, but basically it was just 2 olive trees. Again, so what Cam said about olive trees, it was 2 olive trees that were pouring out oil to the lampstand that was on, in the tabernacle. That's the vision he had, right? Do you guys want to see the picture?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Like in Zechariah, I never heard this story before. It's right here. He had this vision right here from God. And it was just, see, all the Bible relates together. So I know you guys are seeing it now. So it's just talking about how you need this oil to keep that lampstick burning. Like, why you need these 2 olive trees? What are the significance between olive trees? But like, yeah, so like this whole section to me is just like, it's not just talking about like the Holy Spirit, that light, because like with the priests, this is the thing, Cam said it, the priest had to make sure that light kept on burning in the tabernacle. It could never go out, ever. Like and then on top of that, the people, when they made, y'all remember they sent offerings and made sacrifices and gave all like whatever they wanted to give to God, out of being a cheerful giver. You remember that? Like one thing they had to keep on doing was providing olives and oil for the priest so they can keep the fire burning, right? So like you can't do this by yourself. You need help, everything like that, right? It's deep. But then also like, are you filled with the Spirit? Because like this is the Holy Spirit, right? Like so how close are you with God? Like, are you feeling His Spirit right now? Like, do you have everything you need for life right now? Like that's all what this section is talking about. Are you receiving all the good God's goodness and His presence right now in your life? Not 10 years ago, not when you were 5, not that one day, but every day. There's a continual overflow.
Amen. All right. So the last thing I wanted to talk about with this, and I kind of been waiting the whole time to be able to bring this up. Wait, I just saw Germ unmute. Germ, you good? Did you have anything? Oh, he's gone.
And he's gone.
All right.
And we back.
Germ, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have something to say on this one section before we get ready to close this out? I have one more.
Yeah. I was just going to point out, just very simply, I mean, they had to keep the lamps burning because you couldn't see inside of the tabernacle,
Right.
because it was so dark from the goat skin, and that's a representation of our life without the light of Christ inside of us. You know, we go through darkness and we walk in dark. You know, imagine them hitting their toes or something, walking into the Holy of Holies without being consecrated. And well, we kill you. You didn't have the light, you know, in you, and just take them out. But yeah, that was just something simple I thought about. I was like, you know, they kept it so they could see inside of there all the time.
Amen.
Yeah. Hey, Miles.
Yeah. So I wanted to close this out by saying, well, we got all the descriptions, we got all the, I guess, the visuals of what it looks like. But did everybody truly understand like why they needed a tabernacle then and why we don't now? And yes, that's an actual question. Why do we not need an actual tabernacle to be able to go worship or to be able to go pray or even to be able to kind of fellowship with each other through sacrifices and things like that, to be able to show our devotion or obedience to God?
Is it because it's still like before Jesus had given his life and spilled his blood to help I guess not help those humanity repent for their transgressions, because at this time it's way before Jesus' time, and at this time they still needed a I guess like an earthly dwelling for God, because that's essentially what this tabernacle is a earthly dwelling for him. So is that kind of why we don't need a tabernacle now, or is it something else for it?
I want to see what Abe thinks. Abe, what did you say?
I was gonna say, is it really before you could really establish a church home back then, and then now we have a place we all come together to kind of really worship and celebrate Jesus and God. But back then they had a tabernacle to kind of be the first start of it, and a place for like a large gathering.
Both good answers. I want to say that Cam is very correct in this, in the fact that back then, Jesus didn't die on the cross yet. He wasn't resurrected. This was before Jesus was even there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember on Mount Sinai, that whole mountain, even the base of it, is holy ground. And the weight of our sins was too great to where if we were to be in the presence of God, knowing how sinful we are as beings, we wouldn't make it a second, honestly, not even a half second.
Mm-hmm.
It's holy ground. And so for these guys, Moses was the only one that was able to go up on the mountain. And we'll see in the next chapter that even Aaron was like one of the only few people that was able to be, the priest that was representing the authority of God. And that was because I guess their sins didn't weigh as much as ours, and God allowed them to. And so with this being said, in order for us to be able to, like, if we were there, in order for us to be able to, enter the tabernacle and be able to observe and to be able to interact with God, worship, and all that, we needed to make a sacrifice. And I know Sean was kind of touching on that a few times throughout this chapter, but we needed the tabernacle because something had to die for our sins, so that, like, it had to die in our place, receive the punishment that we deserve for us to be able to go and to be able to trust God. You know what I mean? And that was something that's something towards being able to achieve salvation. You know what I mean? In that, for us to be able to approach God, something must die in our place. And so this tabernacle was us being able to receive, like, the benefits that Jesus gave us whenever he died. Mm-hmm. In that they had to go and sacrifice either, their goat or whatever, to be able to enter in and be able to interact or approach God. And so that's why, like, it's so funny. Yeah, not like haha funny, but it's so funny that we got to this section on the tabernacle right after, Good Friday and things like that, to where we're in remembrance of the things that Jesus did out of obedience to God for us, to be able to have our own, for us to be able to even pray outside of church, for us to be able to not have to go through a priest to be able to receive God, but for us to be able to make the choice on our own, to be able to go and talk to God. If you think about that, we don't have to sacrifice anything else but our own selves. We only have to put our own selves up for ransom for us to be able to talk to God. Right. And so anytime that we're giving ourselves to God to be able to, worship or anything like that, we're choosing to say, I have this addiction to this thing that satisfies my flesh, or that tells me that God is not there. I'm going to give that to God. I'm going to sacrifice it so I can be able to have a connection with him. You know what I mean? And so even though we don't have a physical tabernacle, Jesus was our ultimate tabernacle, to where something like that doesn't have to happen again. We don't have to build these altars. We don't have to build these things to be able to have a connection with God. It's all up to us. And so I just wanted to kind of stress that, because, sometimes it's hard to kind of catch the message whenever we're overloaded in description, So, Sean, that was kind of all I wanted to talk about towards that. I did want to also bring out 2 chapters that I would want for you guys to be able to read on your own, and possibly, to be able to understand this a little bit more fully. So if you could read Hebrews 10 in your own time, or John 14 in your own time. And each of those deals with the fact of how are we able to achieve salvation, to be able to approach and to be able to talk and interact and have a relationship with God. So that's all. So Sean, if you had anything.
Yeah, I was gonna ask everybody too, because I learned just, like, I gotta break stuff down, because I don't break stuff down no more. I kind of just go. You guys know. I don't have to explain. So I was gonna ask you guys, like, who's the tabernacle now, or what is it? Like, where is it? Where's the tabernacle, or who is it? Because, like, in this time period, it was a tabernacle, but in David and Solomon's time period, it was a temple. Well, in Solomon's time period, it was a temple. And then in Jesus' time period, it was a temple as well. The temple was the tabernacle.
I believe Jesus himself. Well, am I supposed to answer that?
Well, it's anybody.
Okay. Yeah, I would say in our in our exact definition, I would say Jesus is our tabernacle, and the weight of our own sins, the things that are the things that we desire out of our flesh, we are to put as sacrifice to be able to get to God. And so we know from, well, all of us don't know, but for those who've read John, we know that Jesus is the gate. And through acknowledging, Jesus as being God's son, and for us to be able to have, that benefit of if we are saved, we, repent for our sins, we offer that part of our flesh up to God, and then we're able to go and worship, or we're able to go and, pray, or we're able to things of that nature. At least that's how I understood it. I could be wrong. Anyone else?
Yeah, where do you think the tabernacle is, guys? Like now, Solomon's time period was a temple. This time period, it was a tabernacle. So where is it at now? Like based on everything that we've been learning. And you just say anything. It's okay if you don't. There's really no wrong answer. Like whatever you're thinking is probably going to be right. Just FYI.
That's a very good question. For that, I don't know. But if I were to make a guess or have an answer for that, I would say at this point, pretty much anywhere or any location could be our tabernacle. Because it's not like we in these times restrict ourselves to having to be in a church building to pray to God or study His Word and just learn more about what He's trying to teach us. We don't have to be in the Vatican itself to try to repent for everything we've done. We have we can have our own personal talk with God. Where we're sitting right now, my bed, Germ Studio, A's room. Your online Bible studies or in-person Bible studies. Anywhere. So that's what I would say for that.
And you're correct, Cam. See, we did it, man. Like, this is the photo I was trying to show you guys, man. Right here. Ain't this photo dope? Like, can y'all see it? I need to make it bigger. I'm talking about this photo right here. All right, so like whenever opposing armies, Philistine, Canaanites, you name it, whenever they came and approached Israel's what do you call it? I don't know what to call it. The Israelites, whenever they approached all of them, like this is what they saw. They saw the cross, right? It predicted of like Jesus coming back. They saw this temple. Like they were like, man, what is this smoke coming up? Like, what is this? Like, and it was just predicting like the cross. It was pointing towards the cross. So anytime the Israelites moved, because we know they moved from camp to camp, right? From mountain to mountain, like wilderness to wilderness, like they moved just like this, right? So a cross. That's what everybody saw, right? So like Cam, man, you killed it, bro. That's the answer, man. Like, the courtyard, man, like we've been talking about it, the tabernacle right here. Like this thing, it was separated and enclosed and distinguished from the rest of the world. Like obviously, a tribe moving like this is different, right? Different than everybody else. Like so, they're distinguished and different. Like this is what you're called to be. You're called to be distinguished and different. And like Cam said, man, like where's the tabernacle now? Tabernacle's everywhere. Like God opened up the gates for everybody, for anybody to come to Him. You can make a sacrifice right now. You can be in His presence right now, wherever you are. Like because of Jesus' sacrifice, the veil's been taken down. Like all this comes together, right? Like so we can praise God and be with God any and everywhere. It was God's will and His intention to do this, So yeah, man, there's no more courtyard. Like you are the court. If anything, the world's the courtyard. You're the temple. Like you're the temple now. You're called to be a reflection of that. And we're about to talk about the priest. You're called to be a high priest too. Well, a priest, the high priest. Yeah, you're called to be that too. So we're about to really break this down. But Yeah, I just wanted to share that, guys, because the tabernacle, it was enclosed just for the Israelites, right? And enclosed just for the high priest to go in the Holy of Holies. But now, like, it's room for everybody, man. Like, so that's what Jesus did for us. So I just want to throw that out there. That's why the Old Testament is so important to study, because you break down like all the New Testament and the New Covenant and the way things are with Jesus now.
Amen. Anything else before we move on?
That's it for me.
Cool. Let's move on to 28. So like before, we'll just go through section by section. Probably cut off probably the breastplate in half, but yeah. All right, so Exodus 28. Who wants to guide us through the first section? Chapters 1 through 5. Section, verses 1 through 5. Sorry, I'm just throwing out words. It's 1 through 5. Anyone?
I'll go ahead and take that up. All right. Have Aaron, your brother, brought to you from among the Israelites, along with his sons Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, so they may serve me as priests. Make sacred garments for your brother Aaron. Yeah, okay. I almost read it, Aaron on. Aaron, to give him dignity and honor. Tell all the skilled workers to whom I have given wisdom in such matters that they are to make garments for Aaron, for his consecration, so he may serve me as priest. These are the garments they are to make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a woven tunic, a turban, and a sash. They are to make these garments for your brother Aaron and his sons, so they may serve me as priests. Have them use gold and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen.
Amen. Anything on this section?
So I actually had a question that I wasn't sure on. So I guess it's kind of a two-parter. So first, so we see that Aaron and his children are being made into, or his sons rather, are being made into priests. So for Moses, was he ever allowed into the Holy of Holies? And then the second question, so we get a description of the items that the high priest will need to wear when they're going into the holy places, and for the high priest, the Holy of Holies. But did this practice, as far as wearing these garments, go away towards Jesus' time? Because what I remember, he doesn't wear all these items when he's giving his sermons when Jesus is around. So I was curious on that.
Let me think. And if anybody else has an answer for that, go ahead.
Kim, can you ask your second question again?
So for the second question, it was related to the garments that Aaron and his sons will be wearing. So these garments are made for them as they are going to be made into priests and a high priest. So I believe they're part of the same tribe that eventually leads to Jesus. These are his ancestors, right? So for that, did the practice of wearing those garments fade out when Jesus started providing his sermons? Because I thought they would adorn him with the same kind of garments here, like throughout the generations or so. So I wasn't sure if, definitely wasn't, probably wasn't needed at that point, but that was something that sort of stuck out to me, is that from the little that I do know, I don't remember Jesus ever needing to wear the same garments that Aaron and his sons will be wearing here when providing sermons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jerry, do you want to answer it?
Yeah, well, I want to answer one part of that second question. Was so first off, although Jesus is related to us all, this tribe, so Aaron and Moses were Levites, but the tribe that Jesus directly comes out of is the tribe of Judah. Correct, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. So that leading up to this, to the question, he wouldn't necessarily have to, but on the cross, and I think it's recorded in which book is either Mark or Matthew, where they talk about Jesus being the king a lot. Where on the cross they mocked him and put a purple sash on him, to show royalty. But they were mocking him, but like he was still king. You know what I'm saying? So there were probably certain times that he was adorned with certain colors, and maybe people didn't recognize or know it, because some people show Jesus wearing a white robe with a blue sash over him. Sometimes it's a white robe with a scarlet sash over him. But the most important thing that I always remember is that they did dress him with a purple sash while he was naked, dying on the cross, to show him, the world that he was royalty. So that's kind of a part one of maybe an answer to your second. Your first question, I don't know. Someone else can take that one.
Yeah, Cam, first of all, those are great questions, man. I'm happy you even asking questions like that. So like just this picture again, line of Judah, right? Jesus. Like it impresses me that he didn't come from the tribe of Levi, with all them being priests. So like only the priests could go into the tabernacle, right? But remember, I told you before, only certain priests could go into the Holy of Holies. So there's two different priests, right? You got a regular priest and you got a high priest. And so which one is Moses? Like, have y'all heard in the scripture that Moses was a high priest? Or have you heard that he was a priest at all? A priest at all? Because I mean, obviously he's a priest, right? Because he's in the tribe of Judah. I should have kept on sharing my screen. And he was right there by the tabernacle, right, with all the tribe of Levi, right? Because all the Levite tribes are priests. So they wanted that. They loved the Lord compared to all the rest of the tribes, right? So Moses got to go in tabernacle, but he didn't have to do all the Holy of Holies works. That was Aaron's job, right? But Aaron and Moses, actually, Aaron and Moses are still right there by the tabernacle, right by each other. So could Moses have done that? Yeah, if God gave him that role, but that was Aaron's role right here, right? Am I sharing my screen? Yeah, that was Aaron's role. God called Aaron to do that, and Aaron's children and all his seed. So Moses, you're doing this. Moses did something different. Moses had the role of a high priest when it came to the mountain, talking with God and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So like, all of them got different roles. There's different roles for a high priest. So I guess you could consider Moses a high priest, but that wasn't his role to go into the Holy of Holies and where the Ark of the Covenant was, and to do. That's really. It's not. I'm not gonna call it dirty. It's not dirty work. That's not when you're in the Holy of Holies, but like, to make sacrifices, right? Blood sacrifice and everything. Moses couldn't do everything. He had to already judge all the tribes of Judah. I mean, all the tribes of Israel, right? So he had a lot on his hands. He had to lead them, right? So, yeah, he couldn't do that, man. He can't do everything. So that's to answer your question. I can't remember your second question. Your second question, like the linen and stuff. So in the Bible, you'll see that Samuel, when he was a child, he wore a linen ephod, whatever. I'm about to show you guys a picture when I talk finally. I'm not doing it right now. But then like the high priest, they wore like the ephod that has all gold on it. So like apparently priests wore something different than the high priest, basically. Like David even wore like the same thing that Samuel wore when he was a kid, and he was an inferior priest when he was just a normal priest. But the high priest wore something different. And it's for a reason. We'll talk about it in chapter. I don't know what verse y'all stopped at, but what verse did we stop at?
It was verse 5, I think.
Oh, okay. Really? Okay. Well, I'm gonna let someone else talk before I say anything else.
Yeah, the last thing I kind of wanted to say towards that was, well, your second question, Cam, was I imagine Jesus didn't necessarily need to wear it, in a sense that the only reason why Aaron was given it was to basically serve as a representation of the authority of God, not necessarily. I guess it's not necessarily like something that was meant to be like really like passed down. You know what I mean? And so like for Jesus, why would he need a robe symbolizing the authority of God when he came, literally his mission came from God? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so at this time, it's like God recognizes that certain people need certain things at certain points. And so since this, I'm going to call it a ministry, but since this nation is kind of getting started in their practices with, following God and really doing it organized and having it under a certain accord, they needed a representation. They needed a leader. It's like at TSU, if we had somebody being like a representation of a certain class in college, you know what I mean? People would elect them, and based on that, every like football game or everything like that, they would have that representative either dressed up with like some kind of sash or a crown or something like that, symbolizing that this person came on behalf of TSU. You know what I mean? And that was kind of like the royalty. Now, mind you, this isn't something to where like he has the robes, he has the garments and things like that, and we'll kind of go through it a little bit more in this chapter. But this doesn't give him any special privileges. He doesn't receive more money. He doesn't get a nice little castle or like a little penthouse suite or anything like that from that. It's more of he has a job that was given by God, and he is given an attire to be able to represent that God was the one that put him in that position. And so you would like, for anyone who isn't familiar with this, they would see all the gaudiness and the royal, colors and things like that of this garment, and would be like, how did somebody not end up being jealous of this guy, or how did nobody end up like stealing anything from this guy or anything like that? Because and I kind of you kind of made me think of it whenever you had asked, was Moses able to go into the holiest of holies and not have to wear this garment or anything like that? Like, why is Moses not really mentioned in this respect? To anyone normal, it's easy to look at somebody, like what somebody has, and become jealous of it. You know what I mean? As far as like, I'm just going to use Germ as an example. If I was into music production and I saw the work that Germ was doing, and I see that, he's able to go to different events and he's able to, do things, and he has his mission towards being able to go out and share his music and things like that with his mission. And for me, I'm more of like a local at-home DJ or something like that. And I share just music made from other people. And I'd be looking at German saying, how did I not get to that point? It's different missions. People were put on different assignments. You know what I mean? And so based on that, God's going to give you whatever you need to be able to fulfill the job. And so I just kind of wanted to point this out.
Yeah, Cam, your
I'm pretty
question.
sure.
Cam's question was deep, bro. Like, it is so broad and so many answers to your question, man. Like, because my thing is, like, why would Jesus choose to come from the line of Judah when he come from the line of Levi? Like, wouldn't you want to be associated with the Levite tribe, kind of? Like, because with Judah, like, we talk about the 12 brothers. Like, first of all, which brothers hated Joseph? And then which brothers wanted to kill him? And then which brother just wanted to make money from it instead of just killing him. You know, they came up with a better idea. It was like, yeah, let's sell him into slavery. It was Judah. That's the tribe that Jesus came from. The one that stole I mean, but maybe he was just showing compassion to Joseph. I don't know. But still, like he still one of the brothers that was jealous of Joseph. Right? And that's the tribe that Jesus chose to come from. So like, and then also like, this is so deep because he chose to come from Leah, the ugly sister out of Rachel. Like Jacob favored Rachel, but Jesus chose to come from Leah's line. Really? Like then Tamar, the prostitute, Rahab, the prostitute. Like it's like what? Like look at Jesus' ancestry sometime. Like we'll get to it in Matthew 1 when you talk about the begots and all his ancestry. But like this is the line Jesus came from, right? So like God chose the humble. He chooses the humblest of things. Like that's another thing about the tabernacle. Like God used the humble thing to reveal himself to everybody, to the world. Like a tent. Out of all things, God said, I'm gonna use a tent to show you who I am. And literally, God chose the line of Judah to show the world who Christ was, to bring Christ into the world, right? So like that says a lot. So like, no, he didn't have to be a high, and then another thing, the high priest, we're gonna cover it with just this chapter alone. They wore certain things and did certain things so people could be in awe of them, so people could be in reverence of them. They did things that caught people's attention and they had to pay attention to, like a Christian should do, right? But like Jesus would Jesus have to do that? The Son of God, like God himself, would he have to get people's attention? Like, wouldn't that say a lot about Jesus? That would show how insecure he is. Like if he had to put on a priestly garment with that only high priest could wear just to show people I'm a high priest, right? Does God have to do that? No. Like God can wear anything. He can come from anywhere. He can do anything and still outshine everybody by a landslide. Like, and that's just one way to answer your question, Cam. Like, he didn't wear that. Like David didn't wear it either. David couldn't wear a high priest thing. And this still did last in Jesus' time period. Because you remember the veil tore, right? So the temple was the new tabernacle in Jesus' time period. And the veil tore, right? So they still did the same thing in Jesus' time period as they did here in Moses' time period. And actually, I think they even still do it today. They still do the same thing, making sacrifices.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and have the veil. I don't know where the Ark of the Covenant is, but they still try to do the same ritual things. Just as why? Out of insecurity. Like, this is the way to get to heaven. You got to do these things and these rituals when there ain't none. All you gotta do is just obey the Bible and follow his word, and repent of your sins. Like, so like, yeah, Cam, like that question is so deep. I'm gonna shut up, but like, yeah, that question is real deep, bro.
Yeah. In regards to this section, though, I didn't really have anything, but I'm glad you brought up that question because it created some good conversation. And I have more for the following sections, but yeah. Anything else on 1 through 5 before we move on?
I got something, but I want somebody else to. If y'all got anything.
Anyone else? Sean, it looks like the floor is yours, man.
No, I'll just wait. I'll just tie everything in.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Somebody take us through 6 through 13.
Yeah, I can do it.
I think it's pronounced the ephod.
Right, ephod. Make the ephod of gold and a blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and a finely twisted linen, the work of skilled hands. It is to have 2 shoulder pieces attached to 2 of its corners, so it can be fastened. Its skillfully woven waistband is to be like a one piece with the ephod, and made with gold and with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and with finely twisted linen. Take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel in the order of their birth. 6 names on one stone and remain 6 on the other. Engrave the names of the sons of Israel on the 2 stones the way a gem cutter engraves a seal. The amount of stones in the gold filigreed settings and fasten them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as memorial stone for the sons of Israel. Aaron is to bear the names on his shoulders as a memorial before the Lord. Make good filigree settings and 2 braided chains of pure gold like a rope and attach the chains to the settings.
Okay. Anything on this section?
Yeah, question.
Mm-hmm.
And was wondering why on verse 9 through 10, like he had the 2 onyx stones get that, and one that put the names of Israel. And why only 6 names on one and the other 6 on the other? And did it say which 6 it was? No, it didn't.
Yeah, it's his sons.
Mm-hmm.
Now.
Oh wait, no, my math went for ways. I get it. Sorry, my math kind of brain fogged there.
It's all good. But yeah, the imagery here of just like, so you had the sons of Israel, which is, I mean, his ancestors really, placed on his shoulders. The just the imagery of like the promises that were made to Israel from God, placed on his shoulders, in that he's carrying all the expectations, all the responsibilities, and keeping that covenant with God, on his shoulders. You know what I mean? That's huge. Can you imagine, like, everybody that came before you, whether it's your parents, grandparents, their grandparents, things like that, and all these people that had all these, different actions and things that they did to be able to make sure it's like life was better for the next one that followed. And then now those same expectations are carried on your shoulders. Or even the fact of, the promises that God has made by sending his son to the cross, his only son. And the fact that now that he's done that, it's like now it's your turn to put yourself aside and to be able to have, show obedience to God. You know what I mean? And having that weight on your shoulders. It's tough. I kind of looked at that like, wow. Can you imagine, Did anyone have anything else, anything on this section? Anyone else?
I'm gonna say something on the next section.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna show like a diagram too. That I found.
Are you about to show the priest garment? You about to show what it looks like?
Yeah, and in the next section, like someone actually detailed every part, and they have explanations for each part.
I was about to do the same
I'll
thing.
share that.
I'll wait, man.
Okay. I want to tie it in with the breastplate too.
All right, yeah, let's do it. I'll wait. Because I feel like right now we don't have a good understanding of what the priest robe is and everything. But I'll wait to bring it all home. What, Jerry?
Okay. Oh, and I was also gonna say, it's pronounced ephod. So like F and then if you look up on Google and then you listen to the person say, I was also raised on this part of the Bible, so I've always heard ephod.
Okay.
Or some people say ephod, but I think if you say it quickly, it's just ephod.
You know how English is. If you country, you say stuff different.
Hey, we all country with the exception of probably Ave and Cam.
Right. East Coast, baby.
Got it.
Great Plains. Get out of here.
Okay, well, if everybody's waiting, did either you, Cam, or I think Ave already said his piece. Did you have anything for the ephod?
For the ephod, no, I didn't have anything for it.
Yeah.
Also, what is filigree?
Filigree is like a very fancy design being put on it. It's like I'm trying to think of like a good example. So, wow, what is a good example for that? Like I know the picture of it in my head, but I'm trying to think of like what's commonly like put on it. Probably something you might find at like a grandparent's house where they have like those fancy towels that aren't supposed to actually be used to dry your hands after you wash your hands and stuff. You got to use the paper towels right next to it. They have all those fancy little like gold trimmings and swirls and all other stuff in there. It's kind of like that in layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a gem right there?
Yeah.
So follow my mouse. So ephod is the garment piece here. So, but it's by the sash, and then when God was speaking of the shoulder pieces, I believe they're also attached, or the ephod is attached here, and the filigree, right, are these little gold pieces that are going to eventually connect the breastplate. If that's let's go back to the work quick. So filigree, yeah. They mount the stones and gold filigrees and fastened to the shoulder pieces of the ephod. Yeah, so that's right. So these are fastened into the overall garment of the ephod.
Yeah. When you say fasten, you mean like stitched together, right? Like closely tied to the garment and on the priest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that. That's I just want.
I believe they're actually into it.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go because like there's so much, man. I don't want you guys to miss it. Like, I'm about to share my screen, Jerry. I don't know if it got rid of yours.
No, I can watch.
Okay, cool. All right, so here goes another example of it too. So we're about to cover all this, man. But like, I was gonna ask you guys, what is this like ephod, or whatever you want to call it? What does this look like? Is this attire right here with all these colors? Like, does it remind you of any story that you talked about before? Because I know you guys went through the book of Genesis.
Joseph.
Right. So the coat of many colors, right? So why did Jacob give Joseph the coat of many colors? To make him stand out, to show him you're my son, you're my favorite. Like that's what he was really doing. Like, and like that's what God was doing with the high priest, man. Like he was just signifying, making them distinguish and making them stick out. Like, look, this is mine right here. Like nobody touches him. He remains spotless and blameless. Like, leave him alone. Like, that's what the high priest role is. Like the high priest, like that's the thing with being a priest. I learned this when I studied Samuel. With Samuel, like first of all, his mom couldn't get pregnant, right, Hannah? And she prayed for her son, and then she got Samuel. Like long story short, real long story short. And and she devoted, the only reason why she got Samuel from God was because she devoted his life to him. She said, if you give me a son, I'm going to give him your life. And literally, Samuel was devoted to the priesthood from birth, just like we should be, right? Like we're set apart from God. The priests couldn't do stuff that everybody else in the tribe did. They couldn't go out and party and actually celebrate the festivals and stuff that went on. Because why? Because they had to make sacrifices. They had to keep maintenance of the temple. They had to stay in God's presence. This was the role of a priest, man. Like a priest, all your life is focused on is God, man. And like, so I was gonna ask you guys, like, what is a priest, man? And like, from what you gathered so far, like, what did they do? Like, what's the point of a priest? It's two things. Like, they're representative of the people of God. So, Moses spoke on Israel's behalf to God, right? And even Aaron, when he made a sacrifice, he did it too. And we see it just with this whole chapter. Like, it talks about just the attire of a priest is doing the same thing Moses did with God for Israel. Like, and then vice versa. Like, a priest also is supposed to be a representative of God to the people. So they say exactly what God wants. They get a message from God and a vision from God or something like that. and they make sure it comes into fruition. You know, it's a lot of things, right? But these are the roles of a priest. Like this chapter is so deep, man. Like, and then like, why did God make the priest wear all these things? Like, we haven't even like really scratched the surface of it because I mean, we haven't like broke down what it is yet. But like, God made these priests wear these things, man, because like He wanted to remind the priests, like of their dignity, of to have dignity in their office. Like this is your office. Like this is your work. Like you need to make sure you do your work in a certain kind of way. And so He made them wear all these things so they know that they should conduct themselves in a certain kind of way. Ain't that true for a Christian? But like even for a preacher, like don't you have like high standards for a preacher or a pastor, or like just another saint, another person that claims that they love the Lord? There's a certain way you got to conduct yourself and act, right? So like, yeah, and then also, man, like the priests also are supposed to like influence people. Like you should cause people want to imitate your holy conduct and what you do and how you interact with God. Like this, like the priest role, like this chapter, it's so powerful, man. Like they set the tone for everything, for the whole people. Like it starts in a pulpit. You want to know why a church is bad? Look at the pulpit. Most of the time, it's the pastor to blame, like because the pastor doesn't have things together. You don't the people can only go so far as the people that the people can only go so far as the person that's leading them, right? So man, like this is so powerful, man. Like yeah, but does anybody got something they want to say? Y'all want me to keep on going, or how y'all feel?
Yeah, man. I think, let's see, based on what we were going through in the ephod and what you were saying, I mean, definitely, it's kind of more of like how we compare like a t-shirt wear, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To where like you have the attire to be able to fit it in, but you still have to carry the role. Mm-hmm. And you can have all these nice looking things and you can look the part, but when it comes time to act, you have to do the job correctly.
Right.
And that was kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about towards, I guess, the section where we get into like 31 through like the end of it.
Oh yeah.
To where I don't want to go too far into it, but as far as like the bells that he had to wear, it wasn't for the fact of it was like some Santa Claus type thing to where people would hear the bells and be like, oh, the priest is coming. No, this was more of like, this was for a reminder for Aaron to know that God is watching. There's nothing that you can do that's outside of his sight.
Right.
And anytime those bells are going off, it's not to let other people know, it's to let Aaron know that God still, he's demanding you to do the right thing, because you have a lot of stuff resting on your shoulders and other things that we'll kind of go through in this section. But yeah,
I want to talk about the Oxford Stones, bro. Like that is so powerful. Did y'all look up what Oxford? I just had to do it. Like, did y'all look up what Oxford is, or do y'all know anything about Oxford Stones? Because I didn't know anything.
You mean onyx?
Yeah, onyx stones, whatever it's called. Onyx stones, yeah.
Besides see, my brain immediately went to Pokemon, but no. Kind of telestone. It's some type of like mineral.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say? I don't know.
Like God told him to get onyx stones, right? He said get onyx stones, and then he said get an engraver, to work the stone. And he said, I want you to engrave everybody, all the names of Israel on the stone as signets, like a signet ring, right? Y'all know about signet rings, man. Signet ring signifies your identity, where you come from, like who you are. Like it says everything about you, your signet ring. It also shows like your power, your level. Like, like for a king to put his signet ring on something, it was powerful, right? So like it's the same thing for us, man. Like, but God could have told them to get like a pebble, just a regular rock. Choose anything you want. And that's what the priest's gonna wear. But no, he said get onyx stones, bro. Like precious onyx stones. So like onyx stones, bro, like onyx like signifies like a powerful protection, something like that. And it absorbs negative energy. It transforms and transforms negative energy and it prevents anything from like draining you of physical, like, draining you of any negative energy. You guys get what I'm saying? Like, and remind you, like the 12 tribes of Israel are on these 2 stones, right? And it just talks about like how there's something aiding you of emotional, giving you emotional strength and physical strength and giving you stamina to keep on going. Like it helps you during your stress and confusion and grief, right? Like that's what the onyx like stone like means. And so for God to like to say, put it on your shoulders, like, oh, the high priest, man. Like I want to show you a picture of what it looks like, and then I'm done. But like, look at this, man. Like this is what the priests had on their shoulders right here. And like with the 12 tribes of Israel, like you'll see in a parable of the sheep. Yeah, I remember that parable of the sheep when Jesus went for that one, but went for the 99. I'll go back to it.
Can you go back?
Oh.
Yeah. We get to look at it. He's like, here it is. All right, it's gone.
Here it is. Here it is right here. All right, you see it?
Okay.
Yeah, you remember how in a parable, Jesus left the 99 for the one, right? Y'all remember that saying in that parable, that story? Like when Jesus went to go get the sheep, he put it on his shoulders. And shoulders back in that time period, even for women love shoulders for some reason. I don't know what it is, but that's why I studied like videos of like how to get women. And that's one of the things I realized like and learned, like if you got big shoulders, they think you can hold the weight of the world on your shoulders. Like you're a strong man. And in that ancient time period, that's what they thought the shoulders symbolized, like strength and power. So like Jesus put the lost sheep on his shoulder. And that's what he does with us. Like your name, everything you're going through, all your anxieties or anything like that. God wants to help you through all that. He has your name on his heart and on his mind and on his shoulders. Like so you can rest in his power, you can depend on him, you can lean on him, you can do whatever. Just don't, you don't have to live this life alone. So that goes like with a lot of scripture verses, like cast your cares unto the Lord and he will sustain you. That's like Psalms 55:22. There's a lot of verses like that. But yeah, you guys get it, man. Like, but that's why that's so powerful, man. Every time the high priest came in the Lord's presence, your name is on the stone. Like, and it's even, he put emphasis on it too in those verses. He said, like, with the tribes, like, put them in order, put their names down. But I'm gonna wait to get to that because we're gonna cover that with the breastplate as well too. But it's the same thing.
Yeah, Sean, to kind of like further your point on onyx stones, once it give you strength and make feel powerful, it also kind of gives you that willpower to like really push forward, make you push forward into your life. So, because like onyx, it's kind of formed from the grounds of the earth. So, I have something. It's going, but I believe onyx stone comes in like a variety of different colors, but they're always placed on your shoulders for a really good meaning. But that's all I kind of have to say.
I think they also use them in like spas and stuff like that.
Makes total
like
sense.
Hot stones, like the hot stones.
I tried that once. It felt so good.
Real talk. But yeah, if there's nothing else on the ephod, I almost said the ephod. If there's anything else on ephod, well, if there's not anything else, we can go on to breastpiece. All right. Depends on whoever's reading. How do you feel about like splitting this up, or do you want to read the whole?
I can read all.
Okay, man.
Howdy, Jairus.
What's up, Jairus?
Jairus, I'm about to read Exodus 28, verses 15 through
30.
30. Thank you. Right. Fasten a breast piece for making decisions, the work of skilled hands. Make it like the ephod of gold, and of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of finely twisted linen. It is to be square, a span long, and a span wide, and folded double. Then mount 4 rows of precious stones on it. The first row shall be conning, chrysolite, and boilie. The second one shall be turquoise, lapis lazuli, and emerald. The third one shall be jacinth, agate, and amethyst. Amethyst.
Don't mess that up.
Amethyst. The fourth one shall be topaz, onyx, and jasper. Mount them in gold filigreed settings. There ought to be 12 stones. One of each of the names of the son of Israel, each engraved like a seal with the name of one of the 12 tribes. For the breastpiece, make braided chains of pure gold like a rope. Make 2 gold rings for it and fasten them to 2 corners of the breastpiece. Fasten the 2 gold chains to the rings at the corners of the breastpiece. At the other ends of the chains to the 2 satins, attaching them to the shoulder pieces of the ephod at the front. Make 2 gold rings and attach them to the other 2 corners of the breastpiece on the inside edge next to the ephod. Make 2 more gold rings and attach them to the bottom of the shoulder pieces on the front of the ephod, close to the seam just above the waistband of the ephod. The rings of the breastpiece are to tie to the rings of the ephod of the ephod with blue cord, connecting it to the waistband so that the breastpiece will not swing out from the ephod. Whenever Aaron enters the holy place, he will bear the names of the son of Israel over his heart on the breastpiece of a decision as a continuing memorial before the Lord. Also put the Urim and the Thummim in the breastpiece, so they may be over Aaron's heart whenever he enters the presence of the Lord. Thus, Aaron will always bear the means of making decisions for the Israelites over their heart before the Lord.
Amen. Anything on this section?
Yeah, I had okay, so again I had 2 questions, but the first one's gonna be pretty short. The most obvious question for me was what is Urim and Thummim? Because when I looked up this, I saw one source saying it was for perfections in light, and the other saying the worst of for innocent and guilt. So I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if these were like given like direct translations or anything. So does anyone know what Urim and Thummim means?
My interpretation of that would be not good and evil, but more I was gonna say yin and yang, but probably yeah, I think I'll maybe lean more of the yin and yang aspect.
That's actually really close, Dave. A lot of stuff in other cultures comes directly from the Bible. So pretty much Pastor Ferry, I remember one of his sermons, he kind of explained this to people about the breastpiece. And Urim and Thummim was used to, if they asked a question with God, he would tell them yes or no. So the light and perfections, it's the yes. And that was, I can't remember which one is which though. I just know that the biggest part of it was, he was talking about like, when you're making decisions, wouldn't it be great if we had these stones like all the time with God? And you're like, God, do you want to go that way? That would be awesome. Like, yes, I want you to go that way, or no, I don't want you to go that way. And so, yeah, there is a light and dark, or a positive. Like, if you make this decision, you're going to go down a positive, path. If you make this other decision, you're going to go down like a dark road, and I might not be, well, he's still there with you, but it's still going to be tougher than it would be just going the route that he's instructed you to go. So that's why, did it say these are the stones of decision making? Let's go back to the text. Yeah, so they may be over Aaron's heart. So asking for
guidance from God, over our heart, Lord. That way, yeah, thus Aaron will always bear the means of making decisions for the Israelites. So yeah, so like if it was like, should we eat this bread, God? Like the stone would glow, like whichever one would glow, say yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Someone look up which yes and which one was no. I can't remember right
Yeah, I'm looking now.
now. Okay, because I got another question for you guys after we talk about those two stones. And man, this is so cool. It like even I won't say it is like necessarily, but isn't it cool that the Infinity Stones kind of point to like God as well? Like it's just everything I feel like points to God. Like if you have, because aren't there 6 more stuff, or not 6, there's 5 more stones for the Infinity Stones for the other glove, I guess. I don't know if they're gonna do that with this Marvel universe, but anyhow, I'm tangenting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just cool that like even in culture, like God is still present even when we think like he's not there in some things. Like if you have these stones, you'll have power. And so like God instructed them to add these stones because essentially those 12 stones together, 12 is the number of power, I believe, right? No, 12 is the number of authority. That's right. So full dominion, like full strength. And I think 5 is the number for power, I believe. Yeah. And that's why David got 5 stones.
It's for grace too.
They had 6 stones.
Which one?
In
5.
in the Infinity Gauntlet. But
yes, but yeah, so it's 6 for each side though, so that makes 12 because they have the other glove, right?
that was
I think that's what they're. No, because there's another Marvel story where they're gonna come back and get the other glove to take down Thanos or something. It's something I read it like a while back, but I don't know if this MCU is gonna do it. But there is a story that's like that. And I thought that was really powerful to me. Like, wow, like God is still there. But yeah, essentially these 2 stones were yes or no to help make decisions for the entire nation of Israel, especially when they were in the wilderness, you know.
Yeah, I want to talk through that. Like we can all talk through that right there. Like just the Urim and Thummim, whatever you want to call it, Thummim. So you saw how it's hidden right in the breastplate. So all these, y'all see the 12 tribes right here. I want to share my screen, but you're sure you're sharing it. Y'all see those stones in his breastplate, right there in his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are 12 tribes of Israel. Then the Urim Thummim inside that. So like we talked through it. Somebody said that it means light and perfection. Another person said that it means innocent and guilty. Jeremiah just said number 5 also means grace. Remember the tabernacle. The entrance of the tabernacle had 5 pillars, I think. And then I think it was 5, or it was in the for the ark, where the Ark of the Covenant was, in that building. By the way, it goes like 5 means grace, right? So like the whole point of it is like when it comes to us, like we're in the breastplate, right? So we're on God's mind again. We're part of 12 tribes and everything. Like if you're saved and everything, this all points to the book of life, right? Because Jesus is the great high priest. Jesus has authority to go to to be in God's presence and to make a sacrifice on our behalf, which he already did. So if you're saved, you're a part of this breastplate. Like your name, and you're part of the 2 onyx stones. Your name's written on it. So like whenever Jesus goes in God's presence, God's reminded, and Jesus continually pleads for, fights for, intercedes for, and ensures that you get everything you need in life. So Urim and Thummim just talking about like if you're guilty or if you're innocent, if you're not perfect and you make mistakes, like all this stuff, like if you got it together, if you don't, like Jesus already provided a way for you to make it to heaven. You know what I'm trying to say? So like that's what all this is talking about too. Like, so I just want to throw that out there. Like we can really talk through that and break it down if we really wanted to.
I mean, I thought that was great. Just the overall like main points of what people needed to understand. Did anyone have any more questions on those 2 stones? Because I'm gonna go into my own question for you
I
guys.
think Cam had
I
a
wanna
second question though.
Mhm.
I do, but that one can wait.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
This one is kind of like lighthearted, but I thought this was pretty cool. So I wanted to ask, has anyone looked up their birthstone before? Does everyone know what it is? And if you do, is your birthstone on this this breastplate here?
Mine is whatever
mine-
green is.
Mine is Peridot.
That's blue sapphire. I'm a Capricorn.
Okay, so Sapphire's on here. Anybody else?
I forget mine. I'm looking it up.
Don't know if
Just look at it real
Peridot's on
quick.
there.
Mine's from Sapphire,
Peridot.
I think.
Say it again, Cam.
Peridot. It's like a green yellowish stone.
Okay, I don't see it on here.
Are you trying
Miles,
to-
you say yours is green? Can you look that up?
Yeah.
Okay, so yours is emerald. Yours is on here.
Mine's just
Dave is
turmoil or opal. Actually, I have two.
oh yeah. Okay, I don't see that one on there either.
What, is there another name for it?
There might be other. Yeah, there might be other names. Yeah, like look up other names for them too, guys.
Jerry, can you see my screen? I'm sharing the stones, like what they look like, kind of.
Ruby for me.
Let's see.
Your
That's
screen's
from
up.
Peridot or Chrysolite. Is that there?
Chrysolite.
Isn't that there? Oh yeah, it is. Verse 17.
Yep, yeah.
Mine, mine is
do, yeah.
Ruby.
Yours is Ruby. Look up another name for Ruby. Is it opaque diamond technically, or topaz?
Topaz.
Or no, it's opaque. That's. I was like, what is opaque? Opaque. Yeah.
I thought Topaz was diamond.
Well, there are two different ones on this list here.
Hey, don't tell no girl that, man.
Opaque.
That was too late. About 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's just Ruby.
Oh, it's just Ruby? Okay. There might be a redstone on here too. I just wanted to ask if you guys ever looked up what your birthstone meant from like God's perspective. We have the world's perspective on them. But there's a site here, godchemistryset.blogspot. And they have, a whole bunch of stones and articles about your birthstone. And mine is amethyst. And I was very surprised it was even on there to begin with. And my favorite color outside of like black, white, and gray, because I love neutral colors, is purple. And it's the color of royalty. And as it says here, although it's different from the Bible, from what it describes, it's on the third row. It's the article says that it's the 12th and final foundation. Stone is amethyst, so which means authority, essentially. Now I don't know if it's completely 100% correct. From this article, I would look more into it. But yeah, I just wanted to spark that for you guys. Have you ever looked up your birthstone and what it meant from the Lord's perspective? So just look into that like on your own time. It's really cool that He's included us all. As Sean already pointed out, our names are not only written in the book of well, not in the book of law, but more so in his book that he's keeping, who believes, who doesn't, but also these stones, And there's also 12 stones, so that means there's 12 months, and it all just ties in together. That's why I was thinking, it's like, well, maybe everyone's birthstone is on here. So that was it. If nobody else has anything to add.
Yeah, cool. Anyone else in this section?
No, so really my question just kind of tied in with what Jerem was going into with the different stones and such. So really my question was already answered. I guess the only tidbit I have towards those is I did see that those I think most of those stones are mentioned once again in, I believe, Revelations, when they're talking about the new Jerusalem. I think it was somewhere on either on the gates or the walls. The stones are there, but I haven't read too much into it, so that's all I have for that. I noticed they appeared again, like the same ones, much later.
That's my thing. Like, guys, y'all see how many times like tribes of Israel's names are written in somewhere in the tabernacle, like in God, where God's presence is, or like on Jesus too? Like, because in the book of Revelation too, it said that John had a vision. You remember the book of Revelation is all about John being on the island of Tabernacle or whatever. I can't remember the name. Start with a T. And because they couldn't kill him. They tried every way to kill him, but they couldn't kill him. So then they just put him on an island. And then God this was a great time for God just to like have John write the whole book of Revelation. And like one of the visions John had was he saw Jesus as a great high priest wearing the same garment we've been seeing. So he had on like closely on his heart, like all of our names, and on his shoulders, all of our names. So like that just says a lot. Like we talked about, Jeremiah talked about how they were stitched together with one another, all the like pieces of what the priest had to wear. So like with your name being right there on his chest, like that just says, and he goes to God continually. That just says like, man, you're always on God's mind, man. Like that's how important you are to God. Like continually in remembrance, like remembrance of the tribe as a memorial. Like this is ridiculous, man. Like if anybody ever says like God doesn't care, I remember talking to a Muslim. They literally said like God has forsaken the world. Like he doesn't do anything with the world. Like he just lets the world fend for itself. But like when you study the Bible, like just with this lesson alone, like would y'all say the same thing? Like there's no way. Like God really cares for you. You're always on his mind. Like he'll never forsake you. Like it's so deep. Like it's like the whole Bible just talked about this passage alone. So that's why like just a little verses like this, like chapters that are so confusing, it's actually really deep. Like when you actually study it.
Yeah, real talk. My point was only just going to echo what Sean said. As far as when you look through verses 29 through 30, and the fact of just what it means to be in a point of leadership, especially when it was God given, to where you're almost interceding on all these different people's behalves. That's what Jesus did for us. And it wasn't something that he did because he was expecting to get something in return. A lot of times in leadership, we're going to do a lot. You're not going to get so much of as a thank you. Sometimes it's just going to have to come from your heart, and it is what it is. And that's really what God loves the most about it. Especially when we think about towards tithing and things like that, as far as God loving a cheerful giver. You do it out of just that's how your just heart is set up, and so if Aaron was taking this on just to be able to wear the fancy robes and to have that title next to his name, he wouldn't be right for the role, but God put him there for a reason, and a lot of times in leadership, sometimes when we see somebody who is, leading either your team or something like that in work or whatever, sometimes it's just, once again, it's the assignment. And when it comes to being your turn, when you're serving as a representative, or even for like your family, it all has to come from your heart, everything that you do. Like, I know for a long time, I didn't appreciate my dad as I was younger because, I was a teenager. I just wanted to have my way, and as I grew up, I began to like appreciate a lot of the things that my dad did just from his heart, and so just keep that in mind. So let's keep it going. Who wants to read 31? If you feel like reading out, you can, but 31 out.
I can read. I haven't read anything today.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's pull up the scripture. Okay, other priestly garments. 31. Make the robe of the ephod entirely of blue cloth, with an opening for the head in its center. There should be a woven edge like a collar around this opening so that it will not tear. Make pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn around the hem of the robe, with gold bells between them. The gold bells and all the pomegranates are to alternate around the hem of the robe. Aaron must wear it when he ministers. The sound of the bells will be heard when he enters the holy place before the Lord and when he comes out, so that he will not die. Make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it as a seal, holy to the Lord. Fasten a blue cord to it attach it to the turban. It is to be on the front of the turban. It will be on Aaron's forehead. He will bear the guilt involved in the sacred gifts the Israelites consecrate, whatever their gifts may be. It will be on Aaron's forehead continually, so that they will be acceptable to the Lord. Goodness gracious. Weave the tunic of fine linen and make the turban of fine linen. The sash is to be worn. The sash is to be the work of an embroiderer. Make tunic sashes and caps for Aaron's sons to give them dignity and honor. After you put these clothes on your brother Aaron and his sons, anoint and ordain them, consecrate them so they may serve me as priests. Make linen undergarments as a covering for the body, reaching from the waist to the thigh. Aaron and his sons must wear them whenever they enter the tent of meeting or approach. Whenever they enter the tent of meeting or approach the altar to minister in the holy place, so they will not incur guilt and die. This is to be a lasting ordinance for Aaron and his descendants. Amen.
Amen. So, anything on this section? Anyway. Nobody else?
Well, it's a lot.
It's a
lot of this because, like, we can literally break down each paragraph, but you can look at it from the perspective of Jesus, and you can look at the perspective of you as a Christian that has accepted Jesus into your life. And you guys already said it before with the bells. I think about, like, God is with you at all times. That's a very good point. No matter where you go, and he says, like, when you're in my presence, I'm there with you, and when you leave. So for instance, with this Bible study, I say this all the time. What you guys do out of the Bible study is just as important, probably more, than us doing it with each other here. So God doesn't leave us whenever we hop off of here. He's still with you in the chat when you playing the game. He's still with you at work, when you shop, when you're doing your runs, like everywhere. And what could be a bell that you use to remind yourself that God is with you always? And so one thing I've done this past week is, actually the past 2 weeks, I've made a reminder that in the middle of the day I'm going to start praying. So I just have a literal bell pretty much that says, "Hey, take 5 minutes to pray." So I don't forget before work that when these kids try me, that I can be anybody that I want to be, and that at the end of the day I represent Him, and because I represent Him, through me they get an interaction with God if they're not getting it at home, you know. So that was something. The first part for me is that's very big. That He's walking with you everywhere, and He hears you everywhere too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just kind of just sum up my thoughts on how I feel about towards this chapter. I feel like in total, it's exactly what Germ was saying. In addition to kind of how God really thinks about your thoughts or your actions, in that the things that you're doing, or things like the things that you go through throughout your day, things that are weighing heavy on your shoulders. God cares about that. God puts them there for a reason, and things that everybody has a weight that they have to carry. I feel like in addition to that, the decisions that you have to make, in the fact of how God weighs your heart in every decision that you make. I also feel like towards as far as whenever we think about towards the bells that He had to wear, and that God is there and He's with you even outside of your church or your time with Him, is that He monitors you, He looks after you, He understands the things you're going through. And so I think just kind of towards what Sean was saying before about how he mentioned that we're all called to be like basically high priest, but not really high priest. In the fact of the way that we carry ourselves, we have to keep God included in our decisions, in the way we carry our lives. And that when we think about like the tabernacle, and the fact of how we understand in modern terms the tabernacle is anywhere Jesus can be, anywhere to where Jesus can be included in our lives. And now that we know that, we have to make the conscious choice that when things are weighing heavy on our shoulders and we have these expectations, and we're called to be greater, but our heart is not really there or is not in it, or times to where we feel like we're doing things in secret and really God is aware of everything that we're doing. It puts more responsibility on us to not only try to stay as right as you can, but also in the fact of repenting when you don't get it right, and we'll see Aaron does not get a lot of things right. Following all this, he has all this responsibility, but having the title and having the wardrobe doesn't make anything easier. There's still expectations and there's still actions that you're going to have to take, and you're going to mess up sometimes, but it's more of like, how do you mess up and how do you recover afterwards, and so that's kind of what I looked at this chapter, and even a little bit more of going through the tabernacle and the structure of it.
I also wanted to add on to what Sean, I think he already kind of mentioned it beforehand, but it was just like the fact that we stand out as Christians. Like, how's anyone else supposed to know that you're any different from them if you dress, act, talk just like them? And I think the bells really stand out to me because it's like, yeah, everybody hears Aaron is on the way. But I think also that our actions and how we speak and all kinds of things could be the same type of bells or alarms for other people that this person is different. And I'm probably going to take that into some deeper thought for myself, just kind of like how can I hold myself accountable for the battles that God has dressed me with, like just being different from how the rest of the world acts, So that's a good point, Sean.
Yeah, like, man, we killing it right now. What really touched me, what Miles just said, bro. Like, Miles, bro, you just said that Aaron didn't get it right. Like, we know Aaron's gonna make mistakes in the future, and God knows that too, obviously. And he said it twice, bro. Like, just in this chapter alone, he said they will not incur guilt and die. Like Aaron and his sons, when they come in my presence, don't worry about it. I got them. Like, that is so powerful. Because like we read, like everybody was asking about the Urim and Thummim, the stuff that was hidden on the breastplate, right? Like that whole point of that is like, God knows your future, your past, everything. And no matter what, like God forgives you and sees you as what Jesus did. That sacrifice that Jesus made, like his sacrifice and his blood covers all your sins and all your mistakes and all your failures. So you can enter God's presence with boldness and don't have to worry about falling out dead or anything. Why? Because you're his. You're one of his. Jesus paid the price for you. Like, that was the whole point of like this chapter, man. It was so powerful. And then I was gonna ask you guys, like, well, I don't know if I want to ask you yet, but like, what's your favorite fruit? Do you have a favorite fruit?
And I like apples.
I like strawberry.
Kiwis. I like pineapples.
All right, yeah. Have y'all had pomegranates before? All right.
I love pomegranates.
Yeah, it's just a lot of work, though.
Sure, yeah, it is. It is.
Pomegranate's good.
I have tried pomegranate flavored things, but never ate the pomegranate fruit itself.
Yeah, hook you up, man. You can only get it in season. I hate it's not season around. I don't know what season it is. I just know I can only eat it in the fall and winter. But man, I love pomegranates. But like pomegranates, it's sweet, right? It tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, I love pomegranates. Like, and so like that, like this whole point, like I don't know if you guys saw it, but like it said that the pomegranates and the bells are intertwined with each other. So you got a pomegranate, you got a bell, you got a pomegranate, you got a bell. And it goes on the bottom of the garment right here. Do I need to get a markup tool, or y'all can see me moving my mouse?
I can see you moving mouse.
All right,
I can see it.
All right, cool. So it's right there, right? So like when the people, and then it said like the ephod. So this is the robe of ephod. How do you say it? You guys know what I'm talking about? Like this robe right here.
Yes.
It's supposed to reach down to his knees. So it's either this one or this one. I think it was this one. But man, it reached down to his knees, right? To the priest's knees. That says a lot, man. Like, you're supposed to pray with this, right? So this is just talking about the gospel, bro. Like this blue thing right here, this robe.
Mm-hmm.
Like pomegranates are sweet. Blue, bro. Like, I mean, it goes down to your knees. Get down on your knees and pray. And then the bells. Tell the world, man. Make a joyful sound unto the Lord, man. Not just to the Lord, but to the world, bro. Like, this is so powerful, man. So like when the priest went into the synagogue, into the tabernacle, and then went into the Holy of Holies, their bells were making sound. So everybody heard it throughout the whole camp, right? So if people were scared, they were trembling, right? So like they were trying to like, man, like I hope God forgives us. If they know that the bell stops moving, the priest died probably, so God definitely didn't forgive us. Like, so everybody's trembling, right? Because God's judgment, right? The bronze. See, all this is the gospel, bro. Like, so like, yeah, man. So when it comes to like God and this faith thing, man, we should have a fear of God. And when we preach the gospel, it should make a joyful noise, to the world, man. And be sweet. Do it sweetly. You don't have to do it all like full-fledged wrath and just condemning everybody you see, like a lot of Christians do. But yeah, I just wanted to throw out those significances out there with that one.
Yeah, and actually, this study also kind of even think about when we talk about the full armor of God. You know what I mean?
Right.
In that it's like for every occasion, it's like whenever you're putting on the full armor of God, that's when you're facing adversity and things like that, and what you're supposed to do. This is like almost like the full armor of God for somebody who's approaching faith. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like times in which your actions are going to be called called into question to where, when you're facing adversity or when your faith is being troubled, did you remember that God is listening and watching? Did you weigh your heart? Did you check to see if your heart is in the right place? Did you keep your heart in God's hands? Things of that nature, stuff on your shoulders. Are you allowing God to carry that burden, or are you carrying it yourself? Stuff like that.
Yeah, I felt the same thing, man.
I mean, even the label with "Holy to the Lord." Think if we all had that tattooed on our foreheads, and we all saw each other with that, and we could hold each other accountable. Think about that.
Yeah.
What if we could all hold our actions? We all saw that physically, holy to the Lord, because that's what Aaron went through, and that's what I think about worship. We already spoke about it earlier. So I won't on that too much, but it's just like they saw all that on Aaron all the time.
Yeah.
Like holy to the Lord, like, and what else did it say it was on his head? Like it was the guilt as well. What was on his head? It was the turban, but it was something specific about the turban. It was. He will bear the guilt and the sacred gifts, the Israelites' constant. Yeah. So like, essentially Jesus, like, like they, not that he was Jesus or anything like that, but like to take on the guilt of his, whole nation. That's what Jesus did for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. So like all that points back to him. So yeah, but I think I'm done before all my points equals.
Yeah, man. That was my thing too. Like with the forehead, I forgot. Like, but yeah, guys, y'all saw that gold thing with the picture of me and Jeremiah kept on showing the gold thing on his forehead, and it said "Holy unto the Lord," right? Like this was on his forehead. So not only did people think that he was holy, like he was Aaron and the holy priest, whoever went in the tabernacle, like they had to be holy unto the Lord. But then also all the names that are on me, that God's remembering as a memorial, they're holy unto the Lord, right? So like it went deeper than what what we will like be able to talk about right now. But like, yeah, man, I was gonna ask you guys, man, like, does anyone here feel holy and set apart? Like it literally said, like, consecrate your sons, consecrate anybody that comes in here, you gotta consecrate them, man. Like, what does consecrate mean? Like, and then are you consecrated? Like, because y'all asked about the water. Why is the water significant? That's part of the consecration. You have to consecrate yourself, prepare. And like, what were all the utensils used for? The bronze utensils, the fork and all that stuff, shovel, like to prepare for the altar. Like, you can consecrate the altar too, like, and cleanse it. It's using it for cleaning too. So like, yeah, man, like, how do y'all feel about that? Like, do y'all feel holy? And then like, because the thing is, like, it's like the mark of the beast in the book of Revelation. Like, everybody had that mark and everybody knew, everybody saw. Like, you had the mark of the beast on you. This was your identity. So like, what's your identity? Are you holy and set apart unto the Lord? Are you consecrated for his services? Like, I don't know if you guys want to answer that question. You just want me to answer it, but
I was waiting for you to take a breath.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. Honestly, I don't. Not 100%, but I'm working towards it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's times to where I feel like I'm weak in my faith, or at least weak in my obedience. And if anything, that shows, if I'm in my flesh, I'm not being holy in that moment. Which, I mean, I'm sure everybody has their moments like that, but it's more of like, you make a mistake and now you try not to make that same mistake again. And that's where I suffer sometimes. But I don't feel 120% holy. You
think we should?
Sometimes I question myself. I don't think we should, though.
Yeah. Y'all feel the same way? Like, y'all feel like based on what we've read, like, how do you feel like right now? Like, do we need to be the same way as the high priest were and the priests?
I think we need to strive for that mark, like like press for the mark of the high calling in Jesus Christ. That verse. I think we'll always be striving for it. We'll never reach that perfection because the only thing that we can reach that true holiness is through Jesus.
Yep.
But we've already been redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
We've already been made holy in Him. So even in our mistakes, He continues to cleanse us with His blood and with His sacrifice, like all those things. So like, yeah, we're gonna mess up. Yeah, we're gonna say things wrong. Like, but I think as we grow in our faith, we have to continue to hold ourselves accountable, not just having to hold each other accountable, but like I say, when we go out of this Bible study, it's between you and God. Right now we have a church, but then outside of this, that like especially like people be, let's go get a word, like on Sunday, and like everything's all right, and then we back to the same old sin Monday morning. Now, God knows that about us. He knows that we're going to do it. But if we truly love ourselves, and if we truly love Him back, we'll be obedient. We'll be, and like Miles said earlier, we'll unclench our fist and surrender whatever sin. Like that's repentance. We need to actually have a whole discussion about repentance and what that actually means.
Right.
Because repentance is on us. Jesus said repent. So that's on us. That's our responsibility. That's not on Him at all. He forgives us, but we are the ones that have to turn away, turn to Him. So I don't think we're supposed to feel holy all the time or holy that we're only humans. That's all we are, but we're made holy in Him through Jesus' sacrifice. So and that's just how I feel. No, not even how I feel. It's what God has revealed to me about myself in this past like year or two.
Yeah, I want to help everybody out because, like, man, that's the answer right there, bro. Like, back in this time period, they had to wear this stuff, man. Like, this is what you wear in order to come in my presence. So, what do you wear now? Because, like, the tabernacle's everywhere, right? So, we got to wear something. And, like, in the whole New Testament, you'll see garments of salvation. Put on the garments of salvation. Put on a robe of righteousness. And, like Miles said, put on a breastplate of hope. All this stuff in the Ephesians 6, with the forearmor of God, the sword of the word. You need all this. Like, so now we arm ourselves a different way, but either way, we still arm ourselves. Like, now it ain't for show. We ain't gonna be able to look at nobody, just like you couldn't look at Jesus. Like, even for them to determine who Jesus was, Judas had to kiss him in front of all the guards and all the people that they brought to take him out, which just to let you guys know, it was like at least 200 people, probably more. Like, it was the high priest, all of them, 70, 72, and then it was like the Sanhedrin too. Then it was like the army of the Romans. It was a lot of people. Just take out one man. And for Judas to identify who Jesus was, they were like, who is he? Like, he fit in with all of them. They couldn't even tell the difference. So, like, what are you putting on? How are you standing out? How are you marked? Like, how are you set apart? Because God is trying to do that for you. So, man, like, do you have the garments of salvation, the robe of righteousness? How are you going to get it? Man, you get it by going to His word, by going to the tabernacle. This is the tabernacle, man, His word too. So, like, yeah, man. And you got to be ready in season or out of season. Like, with that last part, bro, it literally said, man, the bells and the pomegranates are the alternate all around the hem. Aaron will wear this robe whenever he ministers before the Lord. Like, whenever. Like, and Paul said it in 1st or 2nd Timothy. He said, like, be ready in season or out of season. Always be ready to preach the gospel. Always be ready to tell people for, the reason for your faith. Like, you need to be ready in season or out of season. You need to be ready for all the attacks the devil's going to give you. Like, in season or out of season, all the time, wherever you are, holy unto the Lord. Like, this is the gospel, bro. Like, this is so powerful, man. Like, I thank you for just letting me still be a part of this Bible study, how much I talk. But yeah, man, these chapters were great, even though they were hard.
No problem, man. We're glad to have you. And everybody here, really. Yeah. If there's anything else, is there anything else in this chapter? Anybody want to say? I choked. I didn't have any. Aaron is like,
Don't die on us.
Get some water. Yeah. Anything else to add to this section, guys?
Not for me.
Okay.
Nothing on me.
Okay, well, there's no objections. We can go ahead and call that Bible study. Who wants to pray us out?